What should we learn about each other? Jesus have mercy. All right, we're recording now, I guess. So let's tell me your names, and then what should we learn about each other today? A hobby, a favorite food, like the craziest thing you've like, no, that's gonna be too long. Favorite dessert, let's just go that route. So name, how long you've been in the business, and favorite dessert. I'll start over here. Yeah, sure. Eye contact's good.
Amanda.
Amanda.
I've been in the business for 1 year.
Okay.
And my favorite dessert is, probably never heard of it, strawberry pretzel salad. It's
What?
It's delicious. It's pretzels and butter crushed up as a crust, and then it's like a cream cheese and whipped cream mixed together, and then a layer of strawberry jello with strawberries in it.
Ooh.
Sweet and salty.
Amanda, 1 year, and strawberry goodness. Okay, thank you.
Me?
Yeah.
Oh. My name is Carrie. I've been in the business for 5 years now, and favorite dessert is, I've been skipping dessert and having an extra piece of sushi or just whatever is, replacing it with an extra serving.
If you had to sin though, what would it be?
You know what? I'm just gonna go way back. Otter Pops.
Ooh, Otter Pops is a classic. Carry 5 Otter Pops, awesome, thank you.
My
Yeah,
name is Francine.
Miss Francine.
This is for over 30 years. I like blueberry cheesecake.
That's a good
You're
one.
making me
That New York style, the thick one, right? Thank you.
I'm Lily.
I'm
Hi.
Susan.
Really been working at it for about a year. And
Okay.
I don't have a favorite dessert, but we bought cherries yesterday, so I love cherries.
Cherries,
Yeah.
awesome. You like Bing or Rainier?
I like both, but Rainier is so expensive.
Yeah.
I'll just say I'll take it.
The red ones, okay. Thank you, Lily.
Hi, I'm Robert. Sorry, getting over the cold here. Been in the business almost 3 years, and my favorite is a classic carrot cake.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
a
Where are
moist
you,
one, not
where are you
dry.
originally from?
Detroit.
Oh, interesting. Thank you.
I'm Cammie. I've been in the business around like 6 months now. And my favorite dessert is green tea ice cream with mochi.
Green tea ice cream and mochi. Okay, so Bubby's girl.
Did
Thank you.
they all go out of business?
Right?
And the one in white,
I
huh?
did, I
They
know.
still sell it in the store.
Oh,
but they don't have,
Yeah, Costco does. Their storefront, I think.
yeah.
Thank you.
And I'm Sam. I've been in the business for a year. And I don't really like sweets too much. So my favorite food in general is peaches. Which is
Really?
dessert.
Like a canned peach?
No, like
Just
a
the
whole
just the
peach.
regular off the tree.
Yeah.
Okay. Awesome.
Peaches are sweet.
Yeah, so that's
So
why
you
it
like
kind of works
sweets, but
out.
not dessert.
Yeah, not like ice cream and stuff.
Awesome. Thank you. My name's Rustan. I've been in the business for what years now. 20-ish years, 21 years. And I think my favorite dessert's got to be ice cream. If I had to narrow it down, probably cookies and cream or mint chocolate chip. Oh, they have this mint brownie on the North Shore. Well, no, that place changed. It closed down. It was Scoops of Paradise. But that used to change my life. Yeah.
You had a lot of listening to the North Shore.
I did. I
You got
purposely, I was
straight.
like, they requested Kailua. I said, you also want to see somewhere in Halloween. So we could stop by there after. Awesome. Well, thank you for coming today. Today's going to be, is really about you. It's going to be a conversation that we're going to have today. We are going to cover a bunch of topics and go through a lot of different material. And the main thing that I ask is that if you do have your cell phones or what have you, just please put those on silent, at least for the next hour, hour and a half. The world's not going to die. And if it is, we'll call them back after the class. That's the only thing that I ask. And also that we participate. There's going to be, it's a conversation. It's not going to be a monologue. I don't just come up here and just talk all over you. It really is interactive. I have been gifted with a wonderful gift of ADD. So I do have the ability to bounce back and forth. So if you have questions, just ask away. And there's always going to be a combination of what we're going to learn today, which is going to be street knowledge as well as book knowledge. And book knowledge is wonderful. It's here for us to be able to create a roadmap. And yet as many as you know, that once we do start to drive, and actually the street knowledge is where the rubber meets the road. So it really, again, it's going to be about you. There's never any stupid questions at all. And we, I actually encourage that because it gets boring just talking. So today we're going to have some fun. We're going to dive into the materials. Did anyone have any questions or anything that they want to cover in particular that we can write down, and we'll just have those, and either through the class or by the end of the class, we can circle back and get those questions answered at all? One's pretty good. All right, let's jump in then. Okay, so if you have your materials, let's go ahead and open those to the not page 5, which says perspective at the top. So we're going to do a combination of reading. Okay, this doesn't. It's on. Thank you. So we're going to do a combination of reading, and then we're also going to do a combination with book, and then also with material. Oh, yes, thank you, sir. You are amazing. What we're going to be covering today is going to be the overall perspective. We're going to zoom in a little bit and go through the capture process, through the connecting process, through the closing process. We're going to review through everything and then also go through the bottom lines, okay? So if you have I keep wanting to say Bibles because, well, anyways. If you have your books, go ahead and open those to page 5. And at the very top, so we're going to be highlighting, underlining, and going through the whole thing. But if you could underline the very quote at the top, where it says that leads don't matter if they don't turn into business. Leads don't matter if they don't turn into business. So our intent with lead generating, our intent with getting leads is that they eventually turn into business, okay? As far as the battle is concerned, there is a battle that takes place. So we're gonna read these first couple paragraphs, actually the first 3 pages we're gonna just read through. It says your lead capture and conversion, circle the word capture and conversion, systems work in conjunction with your lead generation efforts to turn leads into business. You need both systems, lead capture and conversion. So circle the word lead capture again, please. And also the word conversion. Lead capture and conversion is an ongoing process of managing leads captured through prospecting or marketing systematically and strategically toward closed transactions. Why is lead capture and conversion an important issue in a market that has shifted? The mood of the market, second paragraph, the mood of the market has changed. It's this page here. You guys got this one? Okay, cool. Why is lead capture and conversion an important issue in the market, in a market that has shifted? The mood of the market has changed. There is less of a frenzy to hurry up and buy and sell. Ultimately, there are fewer motivated buyers, which translates to fewer leads. So circle the word fewer motivated buyers, and then circle the word fewer leads coming in. So fewer showings of homes and fewer closed sales. The fewer leads you have, the more serious you have to treat each one, especially the good ones. So your system, circle the word system, for capturing quality leads must be strong, and your rate of converting leads to closed transactions must go up. It's not enough to get to the table with a problem. If you have a highlighter, highlight this next sentence. It's not enough to get to the table with a prospective buyer or seller. You must be prepared and determined to get the agreement right then and there. And then when you skip down, it says Gary Keller explains that there are two battles. Number one is getting to the table. And then number 2 is going to be getting the listing agreement, or getting listing or buyer's agreement. Okay, so the last sentence says this guy's going to help you win the first battle, which is getting to the table. so that you have a chance for the business. Okay, let's go to the next page if we could, please. On page 6, so the importance of conversion. So we understand as far as conversion is there's capturing of the lead itself, and then there's going to be the conversion process that we're going to go through. Okay. So the importance of conversion, careful attention to tracking and lead conversion is one of the core disciplines of the MREA, or Millionaire Real Estate Agent. The truth, can someone read that truth, the top truth for me?
When leads are plentiful, sellers market, the low conversion rate can still produce a large number of sales.
Perfect. Okay, so plentiful, low conversion rate can still produce a large number of sales. Can you read the next truth, Robert?
When the volume of leads is down, buyer's market, the low conversion rate will produce a small number of number of sales.
Okay, so what's happening now is that you guys ever go fishing or hunting or anything of that? I grew up on a ranch, so there's going to be a lot of those like comparisons. You love nature like I do and want to preserve it versus eat it, then there's going to be difference, but that's just who I am. So we're going to talk about a lot of those different things. So when you have, when there's a lot, you can be selective and you don't have to be as good at the process of harvesting, if you will. As the leads get less and less and less, we need to be to a point where we're very efficient in what we do. Efficiency is something that we should always have as a check and balance in every aspect of our business. So whenever we have an opportunity, let's say that we do an open house and we go through and we capture a bunch of leads, and then we go through the conversion process, and one open house literally produces just one lead. The question is was that efficient? And if the answer is no, then we have to go back and ask ourselves, where can we improve? Like, what are we missing here? So we should always have efficiencies and being efficient in our business, because that's going to allow you to be the most effective, whether it's in the lead generation portion of the process, or if it's in the lead conversion process portion of the process. Okay. So the volume is down, there's smaller number of leads. So a low conversion rate in that last paragraph, a low conversion rate may have been acceptable in a seller's market, which is what we just were out of, right? We just were in a seller's market. The amount of transactions generated within a minimal effort could satisfy production goals and get the bills paid. However, a low conversion rate in a buyer's market is something that should be examined and improved. And underline this, agents who struggle with conversion are more at risk with decreased transactions. In a down market, you must be more skilled, circle the word skilled, with your lead conversion, circle the word lead conversion. You must produce more results from a smaller supply of leads in order to stay in the business. Does everyone understand what a shifted market is, or what a shift in the market is? You guys went through this already? What's the 4 stages of a market? Market goes up, and then what does it normally do?
That was all.
Plateaus, right? And then what happens?
Yeah.
It retracts, and then what happens? It plateaus again, and then what happens? And it goes back up. This is 1, 2, 3, and 4. Okay, back up to the next high, which then it retracts, plateaus at the bottom, and goes up again. Okay. This is a natural, these are the 4 cycles within any natural real estate market. I don't care where you are in the country. This is like the law of gravity, what goes up must come down. This is law, this does not change. Your retractions may be smaller or greater. Your time periods at which your 1, 2, 3, or 4 cycles will change depending upon what market that you're in. For Hawaii's market, do we typically know, does anyone know what the average time is for each of the phases? Okay, let me back up 1 second. The plateau market is called a balanced market. Okay. A retracting market is called a what? Does anyone know? There's a seller's market, a balanced market, and a buyer's market. There you go. Thank you. Okay, so this is a buyer's market. Okay, once it transitions again, what does it transition to here at the bottom? It's called a what? There you go, balanced market. And then after it's a balanced market, it transitions into a seller's market. The reason why it's important to understand this is you're going to be asked these questions. This is just straight, well, it's in the shift book, but it's also just straight, like street knowledge. So we need to understand the cycles because we have to be able to counsel our clients through when the market is going down. Do you think that real estate still is bought or sold in a buyer's market as it retracts? Absolutely. So how are you going to answer? How are we going to answer the question? Oh, the market's retracting. Should I buy? Well, yes, depends, right? Obviously, we come from curiosity, see where they are, see what the whole. There's variables in that. The short answer should be yes, and we'll go through the explanations afterwards. So what happens is this: as the market goes up, this point right here, where it transitions, is called what?
Shift.
It's called a shift because it's shifting, right? It's shifting from a previous seller's market into a plateaued or balanced market. Okay, so it's the shift point. I'm just going to put S. You understand what S is? It's a shift. Once it goes through a balanced market, what happens again? It shifts again, right? Into a buyer's market. And then once the buyer's market reaches the bottom, what does it do again? It shifts again. So these shift points exist in every single market. Do you know that shift points have a predictability to them? Not that you can pull out your little crystal ball and be like, oh my God, yes, it's going to be like tomorrow, it's going to shift. No. There's what's called a classic law of supply and what? Supply and demand. As when a seller's market starts to head up into its direction, what happens with the prices? They begin to go up, right? This really is just a price chart, right? And then the prices stabilize, then the prices go retract, stabilize, then they go up again. What creates prices to go up? Demand goes which way? Demand goes up. There you go. Demand up, supply goes down. More people are wanting less product. You give me $5, I'll give you $10. You give me $20, it starts to go up. So there's two values. There's two values that exist. There's what's called market value. And there's also what's called intrinsic value. Market value is what we're always taught. Market value is based upon what? Does anyone know?
Somebody would pay for it.
Prices.
Say again? Close.
Prices.
Prices of what? Which prices is market value based off of? This is a conversation. No, it's very safe. It's safe in here. No one's like, oh my God, you got the wrong answer. We're not like that. This is a safe environment.
Prior sales of
Let's have some conversation with that.
prior sales of similar products.
Okay, so correct. They're going to be all of your sold product that's similar or like your comps. We call it comps, right? That's your market value or your comparables. Okay, so these are based off of sold units or sold homes. I'm with comps. We all speak the same language. Okay, so these are based off of sold comps. What is intrinsic value?
What?
Yeah, which was what? What did you say earlier, Carrie?
What somebody's willing to pay.
What someone's willing to pay. What someone is willing to pay. Who's the willing party? Starts to be and ends in ire, why buyer, right? Buyer, a willing to pay. Now, because this exists, these two values exist, the market value will always be based off of current data, like sold properties. Intrinsic value is typically based off of what? Because it's based off of buyer's willingness to pay. What is it normally based off of? Starts with the E
Valuation.
and ends in motion. You got emotion. It's based off of emotion. Because it's based off of emotion, do you think that emotions change or are they always constant? Changes. Sometimes within 1 minute, you can have 5 different emotions. Right? Just depends how I'm feeling right now. Right? Emotions change. It's how we were created. Now the question though is, it's because emotions change that would therefore dictate that intrinsic value can change. Which means this, as the market goes up, is the where would the intrinsic value be? Above, at, or below market value in an inclining market?
Above.
Above. What makes you say that, Robert?
Because the person is going to want to ensure that they get the property and they're going to want to outbid someone else.
It follows the demand. Follows the demand. You're absolutely correct. So in a rising market, this property sold at I was going to say $1 million. I'm willing to pay 1.1 mil. That becomes the new sold value. Next buyer, I'm willing to pay 1.2 million. And it starts to grow and decline. When the demand levels off or the emotion levels off, demand, I'm just going to put basically equals supply, right? That's why it's a balanced market. Whatever product is coming on the market, the supply, the demand is consuming it at the same rate or similar rate, okay? Once we transition into a buyer's market, where does the demand go? Say again?
Down.
Like you're a Viking. Where does it go?
Down.
Down. Okay. So it goes down. Where does the supply go? Up. The supply goes up. These are inverse of each other, which is why they go in the opposite direction. Also, your intrinsic value follows, again, the demand. So buyers are now willing to pay less than what the market value is, okay? This is important because as we go through and we start to actually go through the converting process, we need to be able to understand where our audience is so that the conversations that we have are tailored for that audience. If you have are taking notes, write the word bash down, B-A-S-H. B is going to stand for books. A is going to stand for your aha. S is going to be your success list, like a to-do list, success list. And H is how am I going to apply it? Okay. Now let's jump back in. So because these shifting markets take place, these shift points, when you have a seller's market, a balanced market, or a buyer's market, it's based upon supply and demand, right? But really supply. So how do we know if we're in a buyer's market? What's the months of inventory, not days on market? What is the months of inventory for a buyer's market? Do we know?
Higher than 6?
Say again?
Higher than 6 or 4?
Less.
4.
Huh?
2 1.
Well, let me go backwards because we were just in a seller's market. We're in a seller's market. That's dyslexic. That would definitely be what I just did. Okay, forgive me. Seller's market, balanced market, buyer's market. What's the months of inventory for a seller's market? 5 months or less. Most 5 months or less. 5 months of inventory.
I feel like I've heard a lot of different things. 'Cause I've heard 1 to 3. I've heard, yeah.
You go back and you track our market. It is scary how accurate this is. You know where that is? It's in page like 3 or 4 of this book. I would trust Gary before I trust anyone else. That guy is just brilliant. Okay, so 5 months is the line here. So less than 5 months, we're in a seller's market because the supply is less, right? In a balanced market, do we know what this range is of inventory? What's the supply within here? 5 to what? What's this line?
6.
A little higher, like closer to heaven.
1 hour, wait, 1 year.
7.
7
7. So if you have 7 months, so this is a 5 to 7, this is a less than 5, and this would obviously be greater than 7 months. Memorize this. Get this into your heart. This is base knowledge that as you start dealing with investors or clients or what have you, you can start to, I don't want to say predict because we never tell the future, you can anticipate what the market is going to do, okay? So what happens is this, in a seller's market, I'm going to read all this. Buy, balance, sellers. This is going to be the months of inventory. It's going to cruise around here. All of a sudden, it breaks through, how many months again? 5 months, right? It starts to build and it breaks through 5 months, which transitions us into a balanced market. It cruises around here for a little bit, it builds, it breaks through your 7 months of inventory. Okay, you can see that okay?
You're good.
So it's a 7 months of, it breaks through here, the inventory cruises around a little bit, and then it breaks through again because the demand starts to pick up and it breaks through into this balanced market. Cruises around, breaks through again, back into a seller's market, okay? Here's what it looks like on this graph. The inventory market starts to cool off a little bit and the inventory starts to build. This transition point of 5 months, the instant that it breaks through 5 months, and it holds, not just flirts with it, but it like commits, right? Once it breaks through, you're now in a balanced market, which is here. Once this balanced market breaks through to 7 months, you now transition into a buyer's market. It starts to retract, the demand cools off, the supply builds, okay? This is again months of inventory. Then what happens is it transitions into a bottom balanced market, which is here. Bounces around, and all of a sudden the investors go, oh, we've hit the bottom. So the investors jump in first, there's a little blip. And then the rest of the market goes, oh, those guys, they're starting to buy. Now the demand starts picking up. So what happens is it breaks through the floor and it transitions back here into a seller's market, okay? We understand this? We're in this phase right here. We're literally shifting. The more important thing about this is this. If you go back and you track, have you all taken and looked at the Oahu statistical report? Yeah, you look at the third from the last graph, it's the median sales price. And when you pull it up and you look at the months of inventory and you compare the two, do you know what happened in July of 2019? Broke through. And when you go back and you look at that graph, you'll see the median sales price here go up and all of a sudden it went sideways. And then what did the Feds do in September, October? They dropped the rates. The interest rates dropped. What did that do to the demand? Increased it. And everyone just grabbed the horses and just held on tight because it started to buck again. And it went up to the point of 22.4% last year, okay? The important part is this, the shift was already there. There was an artificial stimulation that drew it back down again. We're not quite there, but we're getting to the point where it's starting to flirt again with this supply, okay? Once it flirts with the supply, we truly will be in a shifted market. And as the interest rates continue to rise, what does that do to demand? It makes it go down, and then the market's going to officially shift. Is the world coming to an end when the market shift takes place? No, you will be okay. Properties still move in every single market, which is the intent or reason why we're going through this, okay? Now, that's when they jump back in. When this shift takes place and it transitions into a balanced market, for Hawaii's market, I'm gonna give you some reassurance. Most people conceive a shifted market or market cycles to look like this, where they're just level all the way across. This is not how market cycles are. The market goes up, retracts, comes back down, goes up again. So the pattern is there. It's just in a diagonal upward motion, okay? Here's what's interesting about Hawaii. I'm just gonna talk specifically Oahu's market. Oahu's market, from the old high to the new high, do you know on average what the increase of old high to new high was? $75,000 to $300,000. Which means if you had the worst timing, like you're a blind squirrel trying to find a nut, you can buy in Hawaii and hold it for 10 years and you'll be okay. Because and this is actually with any market, 10 years tends to be the corrective cycle. $75,000 to $300,000. 75 to 300,000. 75 to $300,000. That's just your appreciation growth. Okay. Now, what's important about that is this. Historically, so let's just go back to 85. Does anyone know what the median sales price in 85 was? I'll tell you, it's 158,000. Our cycle for Hawaii is 11 years. That's our normal cycle. So it's a little bit longer because artificially inflated. So 85 plus 11 is what? 96. 96 plus 11 is 07. 2007 plus 11, 18. Okay, we're going to just do 222. That's where we are currently. Median sales price is 158. 11 years later, 335,000. 11 years later, 643,500. What's our current median sales price right now? Anyone? For single family, yeah.
1.1.
Yeah, it's 1.105. So 1.1. 158 to 335 is how much? It's about 150,000, just rough math, right? 150. Well, 335 to 643 is what? 300,000. 643 from 1.1 is what?
450.
Correct. Here's the important part about this. When buyers ask you, is it a good time to buy? The short answer should be yes. And we go through these charts, write this down, annual resale data. There's a chart from the HBR that's under highcentral.com, not High Central MLS, but highcentral.com. And we'll print it and pull it up all here afterwards. Go through and begin to memorize these numbers because this is what will give you confidence. It'll also give you not only confidence in yourself, but your clients will also begin to have confidence in you. Because this individual is very smart, right? I don't care how old you are. I started in real estate when I was like, it's like 23, 24. I looked like a baby. Like I had to overdress and wear suits because I'd walk in there and, you know, I didn't sound like Mike Tyson, but my voice was a little higher. And they're looking at me in the open house like, how old are you? And I wouldn't even answer their question. I would just say, do you know that the resale, and I would literally go into stats. And I said, be happy to show you this house and you start going into, and I would overcome my deficiency in age and experience with knowledge. Okay. All right, that was a rabbit trail. Thank you. Any questions or anything on this? So last one, sorry. with each of the cycles for Hawaii's market, this is average now, it's not gonna be like, perfect, but literally every balanced market has been about 2 years for Hawaii's market. Retraction, 2 years. Bottom, 2 years. The variation has been the seller's market. The last one, since I've been in 2002 to 2006, is 4 years. This current one started when? Summer of 2012. And where are we at right now? 2022. It hasn't really gone down or shifted into a full balanced market. So this last market was actually about 10 years. Okay. Before the artificial playing around with our interest rates, it was on something similar to this track, between 3 to 5, but it was typically about a 10-year to 11-year cycle. Okay. Right. Let's jump back in. Yes.
You said the
Lily.
retraction is about how many years?
2 years.
2 years.
That was historically, it's been 2 years. So 2007 to 2010. So basically it was like 643, it dropped down to 575 in 2010. So our retraction for our market, it's a great point, Lily. What was, what the percentage that we lost in the worst crash ever for Oahu? A little higher. 10.9%. That's it. You look over in Las Vegas and all these other places, 30, 40, 50, 60%, they had retraction. 10.9 for Oahu, that's it. We have a very special market that, number one, it's like, if you have 3 hungry dogs and you throw them a piece of meat, they're all gonna run after or get one little bite of it, they're still gonna be hungry. And that's where our market is. The supply is always historically been low. We can't go build and make another island and be like, oh, let's go build another million houses. It doesn't work that way. So our supply has always been down. And our demand is made up of your military. It's made up of your local demographics, basically military, investors, and local demographic, local buyers and sellers. Those are your 3 demographics for a while. Okay. All right. Let's look on page 7. We're going to jump in and start zipping through here. Any other questions at all? We're good on that? Okay. Okay, here we go. So in a shifted market, it exposes our agents' conversion rates. And it tests the second sentence, it tests, circle the word system and your resolve, circle the word resolve. So it tests your systems and your resolve to stay in the business of real estate. Okay, so start reading books on grit, start reading books, I think Duckworth wrote that one, Duck something. But grit is a great, what's that? Angela Duckworth, thank you, yeah, you're correct, Angela Duckworth. So that's a book that you may want to check out and read. It's a great book. And then your systems, we're going to start going through the systems as we continue to. Okay, so as far as skills are, typically your skills are going to be tested in your capturing leads, connecting with leads, closing an appointment, and cultivating the leads. Okay. I want to point out on capturing leads, there's a difference between lead generation and lead facilitating. In seller's market, there's a lot of demand is so high, there's a lot of buyers. And typically what could have crept in is that we become what's called a lead facilitator. You want to buy it, let's go. And you just take them through the process. And there wasn't an actual earning the right to be in business with that person because there's so many buyers that were wanting to buy. So part of the process is making sure that we switch our mindset from a lead facilitator to an actual lead generator, which is a lead generator is someone that's going to go out and they earn the right to be in business with whomever there is across the table from them. Okay. All right. So perspective on this one, as far as being prepared, there's a principle. Put a P on your notes and write this next to it. The principle is this. The audience demands the performance. The principle is the audience demands the performance. The audience demands the performance. If I go to a comedy show, so principle is the audience demands the performance. If I go to a comedy show and all of a sudden the dude on stage gets up and starts going, oh Romeo, wherefore art thou Romeo? You're like, dude, this is not poetry hour. This is a comedy show. You as an audience be like, ah, boo, you throw your water bottles or beers or whatever it is you're throwing at me and you'd walk out. The performance that I was giving was not what your expectations were. Your clients demand a certain performance and it's up to us to give that to them. So we have to know our audience, know your buyers, what they expect, their expectations are, know your sellers, what their expectations and goals, wants and needs are, okay? So as far as their scripts, role play, and behavioral style. So under scripts, we want to gather good ones. We're going to write them down, and we'll go through some street scripts today, and practice them daily. Okay, so gather, write down, and practice them daily. Under role playing, we want to get the partner to practice the objection and situation. Why is it good to role play with a partner instead of a live client?
You learn from your mistakes without hurting yourself.
Yeah, exactly. Wow. And if you don't practice your craft and trade on someone other than your clients, what you're really saying, and this is just going to be a harsh truth, what you're really saying is that you don't value your clients because you're willing to practice on them versus practice and perfect your craft and trade and then perform for them. There's a difference. Okay. Behavioral style. Study the most common behavioral types and learn to communicate. Do you guys know about behavioral styles? You guys have gone through the DISC system and all those types of things. If you haven't, I believe we still have the DISC assessment. If not, there's free ones online. But study it, like learn it. Like this is, I literally went on the internet and just put DISC and there was a bunch of just different graphs and everything, and you guys can make copies of these after. But it basically goes through. If I have a high D personality and D is basically your dominant, excuse me, there's dominance, influence, they call it conscientious, it's more consistent, and then steady is S, okay? And if you have a dominant person, their bottom line, what's their number one fear of a high D personality? You don't want something wasted. Time. They don't want their time wasted. Which means we typically should be more bottom line. We should ask more questions in those types of scenarios and condense down. Don't be flowery and explain the whole thing. You can say it in literally 2 sentences. They're very bottom line. Okay, what about an I? I is interactive. What's their worst fear? Possibly.
It's data. Maybe.
Keep going.
Not as personal of an experience.
They don't want to be on timeout. They want to be included. Right? So you'll hear the words family, you hear the word relationships, super important to them. So use those words when you're having those conversations. What about a C, compliant, or they call it consistent? What's their worst fear? Not having enough what? Not enough information. If you are that type of personality, you're going to have to flex. Because if you give that much information to every person you come in contact with, you may be talking that person out of moving forward with a decision that they want to make. Okay? And then your S's are more your steady. Do we know what their worst fear is? They like everything copacetic, like just needs to be just perfect. Not perfect, but it needs to be balanced. So if there's imbalance, they don't like it. So part of that is learning how to cater to each of those respective personality types and combinations thereof, okay? So you go back and study behavior styles. All right, let's look on page 9. We're gonna start jumping into the meat of it. You guys need about 5 minutes to take a break, or you guys are good? I'm old school, I just plow right through. So you guys tell me, you guys are good? All right, we got thumbs up, let's go. Okay, so as far as the conversion processes are concerned, on page 9, it goes through and it's broken down basically into 4 different areas. You have connect, well, it's not connect, it should be capture, connect, cultivate, and then convert. So if on your paper, just cross out the word connect in that big part of the triangle and write the word capture in there. It's a typo. Okay, so as far as capturing, what is capturing? Capturing is acquiring leads from your from your prospecting and marketing activities, and recording them in your database. So it's 2 parts. One is capturing, either through prospecting or marketing, and then we record them in our database. Okay, that's your capture. Connecting, yeah, there's principle. Write P down. The principle is this: your database is your what?
Your business.
There it is. Your database is your business. If you do not have a database, you do not have a what? Business. Your database is your business. My database is I didn't learn this until I was probably, I'm ashamed to admit this, I was 12, 13 years into the business. I didn't have a database. And the instant that we started one, our business literally tripled. I'm not kidding you. Because now we're able to keep in contact with clients purposely, right? Instead of haphazardly. Okay, so your database is your business. Okay, next one is as far as connecting. You have 2-way conversation to assess their needs and motivation. Circle the word 2-way there. Please, it's a 2-way conversation. It's not a 1-way. How great you are, what you've done, and what you've accomplished. People really just don't care about that. They don't. That's the bottom line. Write this principle down. There's actually 3 principles surrounding connecting. 1, statement. Write the word statements down. Statements. Information flows out. Statements equals information flowing out. Statements equals information flowing out. Questions equals information flowing where? In. Questions equals information flowing in. When you make a statement, are you learning anything? Yes or no? Why wouldn't you be learning something? What you already know. You're 100% correct. You're stating what information is already in your head. It is impossible for someone to learn when they're making a statement and when they're talking. And who are we there to learn about? 100%. So questions, the art of questioning and good questions, open-ended questions allows information to flow in, okay? The second principle is this: out of the abundance of the heart, the mouth speaks. Out of the abundance of the heart, the mouth speaks. Out of the abundance of the heart, the mouth speaks. Anyone ever have a relationship with a potential significant other or a best friend, and you ask them an open-ended question? How was your day today? Oh my God, you have no idea. Right? They start going through and hanging their laundry out and what their day was like. You ask that same question, let's say 3 weeks later, how's your day today? It was absolutely amazing. I met this guy or girl or whatever, and they start going down this path. Out of the abundance of the heart, the mouth speaks. Whatever is most important to someone at that particular moment in time is typically what is going to come out of their mouth. which leads us to the third principle, which is this. Everyone already has the answer in their heart. We just haven't asked enough open-ended questions. Everyone already has the answer in their heart. We just have not asked enough open-ended questions. Everyone already has the answer in their heart. We simply have not asked enough open-ended questions to discover what that is. Okay, Sam, we're gonna role play. Hey, Sam, how are you?
Good, how are you?
Amazing. Thank you for coming to my lovely open house. I see you made yourself comfortable.
Yes.
Tell me a little bit about yourself.
I'm 22
Okay.
and I like to read.
Awesome. Thank you for sharing that. So you say you like to read. What's your favorite book?
On Earth Briefly Gorgeous.
On Earth, Briefly Gorgeous. Oh, that's cool. Is it fiction or nonfiction or?
Yeah, it's a fiction book.
Okay. What did you like about it?
It's about the enemy's American, but that gay and his household and his perspective on the world and how everything is beautiful.
Okay.
And I would never be able to put myself in those shoes, so I thought it was cool to be in that shoes.
Shoes. What was there one particular part about the book that you enjoyed most?
The writing style.
The writing style? And how did that writing style make you feel?
Like everything is beautiful.
Everything's beautiful. And when in knowing that everything is beautiful, how did that make you feel? Happy? Okay. Thank you for sharing that. What have I just learned about her? In literally 20 seconds. She likes to read. Yeah, well. Important, not important, but yes, her age. So maybe, yes, maybe we could cater a gift or something to her, right? What else did I learn about her?
She likes writing stuff that make her feel happy.
Ah, she likes writing styles that make her feel happy. So that tells me she's probably an optimistic person. She's probably upbeat. So in my language now, how am I going to have conversation with her? It's going to be catered to that. So I'll present the reality, but put a positive spin on it, right? So in literally in 30 seconds, we were able to go through, ask an open-ended question so I could get information in. Next principle was out of the abundance of her heart, or out of the abundance of her heart, her mouth's going to speak. So I just asked open-ended questions because I wanted to discover something about her, right? You ever go to a psychologist, psychiatrist, whatever they're called, to shrink? That's not necessarily a positive word, but let's just use it. Go to someone that's there to help you in life. What do they normally tell you to do? Like the cliche-ish movie thing.
How do you feel?
How do you feel? Sit back on the couch and what? Relax. And tell me a little bit about how your day went, or tell me a little about this, or tell me a little about that. They ask the open-ended questions. They don't ever say you should do this or you should do that. They get someone to realize the direction that they should go in. Sometimes you can direct through questioning to get them to arrive where your education has allowed you to kind of point them in that direction. But the reality is the person's answering the questions, right? Connecting is an art that will constantly be perfected, because every situation is going to change. Every person has gone through good, bad experiences that have gotten them to the point where they either speak to think to speak, or they don't speak at all. And so it's important on our point to, it's a privilege to be able to have a conversation with someone and learn about them. And then you layer in, can I help them? Is this something that can I add value to their lives? If so, how, right? All right, so that's under connected. Okay, cultivate. We want to stay in a relationship with them. Stay in a relationship with them. Put this in the column. Under cultivate, it's also called following up. And the principle is this: the money is in the follow-up. The money is in the follow-up. Probably about 80% of the lives that you're going to change through real estate will be a result of your follow-up. I would even dare say 90. Because not everyone is low-hanging fruit, they're ready to buy right now, right? So we follow up with them. Oh, Mr. Smith, you're looking to transition to Hawaii. What does your timeline look like? Oh, I gotta wait till I retire, which is gonna be next year. That's a year timeline. Follow up. 6 to 7 months prior. Hey, Mr. Smith, you mentioned that you're retiring in 6 months. Are you ready to drink those Mai Tais and move to Hawaii? Wiggle your toes in the sand? Yes, I am. Follow. That's where the majority of your income is going to come in from, okay? That's the cultivating. Thought you were raising your hand. You were. Okay, and then of course, converting is getting them to the table. All right, flip like 3 or 4 pages. Let's look over in your books where it says capture. So now we're gonna zoom in, okay? So we went through the overall big picture, 30,000 foot view. Now let's jump in terms of capturing. Someone want to read that first paragraph for me, please?
Sure.
Anyone can? Sure, go ahead. Thank you.
Capturing is the act of acquiring names and minimal contact information of potential buyers and sellers who come to you as a result of your lead generation activities, allowing you to grow your database. To master this process, you'll have to decide who you want to capture, what methods and systems we use to record, and start acting on your leads.
Thank you for that, Amanda. Okay, so under who do you capture, who do you want to capture? The importance of that is making sure that you've defined who it is you're going to capture, how you're going to capture them. And here's a principle that should go along with that. The principle is this: go where the game is at. Go where the game is at. Game, like deer, yeah. Deer, sheep, turkeys, like if you're a vegetarian, go where the produce section is, just go where the game is at. The importance of that is that you're going to be able to accomplish what it is you want to accomplish, which is you're going to be able to get vegetables if you go to Whole Foods in the produce section, or if you go hunting in this area versus that area, you're going to be able to bring food home, right? There was and yes.
So how does that go to where the game is at
Mhm.
in real estate? What do you mean by that?
Sure. So when it translates to real estate, there's 2 things what I mean by that. One is going to be as far as an area or place that you're going to be able to connect with. So you like your niche. So that could be, let's say that you love, I don't know, boating. I have no idea about boating, but I'm just going to go with it. So for boating, typically there's going to be an area that boaters will hang out, whether it's at the dock, where maybe there's a bar that's near the marina, whatever it may be, right? You're literally going where the game is at. Then the next question is what's the percentage of transactions that takes place based upon that demographic, right? Are boaters someone that would even need a house because they're probably living on their boat? I don't know. So we have to ask those types of questions. Okay, so I'll just take military, for example. That's one of our niches. Military, on average, they're here for a tour of either 2 to 4 years, depending upon their rank. Which means that every 4 years, there's going to either be a potential buy and a potential what? Sale. Okay. Now, obviously, you never view someone as a transaction. What I'm introducing is the probability of transactions taking place. Okay? Another thought process could be first-time home buyers. So perhaps is there an area where the affordability factor is encouraging of first-time home families to get into that particular area, such as Evo or Kapolei? What happens every roughly 4 to 7 years with a family that's just, hey, we just got married, we just need a little cute 1-bedroom apartment. All of a sudden, Within 2 or 3 years, what happens? The family's starting to grow. We need now a 2-bedroom. Because we were planning on 1 child, but we just had triplets, right? So that's what I mean by going where the game is at, is starting to look and study the market and then look at the number of transactions that are taking place in that area. I'll leave the names out. I was at a previous company that was located in Kahala. And when you drank water, they drank it with their pinkies up. That's where I first started. To the point that I've been a hunter my whole life. And that's just a principle that I apply to not just real estate, but a lot of different areas. And for me, just starting out in the business, the biggest opportunity was in Kapolei and Eva. And, this individual is, little 2 years in the business, I have my little for sale signs and I'm loading them up in the car and the guy passes me in the park. Where are you going, Rustan? Like, I'm going to Eva, I got open house. He goes, Eva, oh my God, why are you going over there? I'm like, because that's where I have my open house. Bright-eyed, bushy tail. I'm like, yeah, let's go, right? This guy's like, I don't sell anything past Kahala. 135 is my TMK. I'm like, oh, really? So why? Because Kahala is where it's at, Rustan. I'm like, oh, okay. And I just, went, did my thing. You know what's ironic about that? 5 years later, okay, I'm in where the game is at. We are slamming transactions, and I happened to have a showing out in Waianae, which is same as Wailai. It's just 1 letter different. And guess who I saw out there? Pinky up. That's who I saw out there. I'm like, hey, Mr. Smith, how are you doing? He goes, oh, and then he tells me a story, which was a good one. But part of that was because there was a closed-mindedness that existed. Don't ever think, I don't care how successful you are in life, don't ever think that you put your pants on like anyone else, because you don't. It's one leg at a time. And the people that you service, you can choose to be a whale hunter and sell that $3 to $5 million property, that 1 property per year. And that's fine. It's feast or famine for you. I'd rather eat squirrel meat, to be honest with you, because I know I'm going to thrive. Because that squirrel meat is now I'm going to take that, and those are going to translate into potential referral sources for my raving fans. It's going to translate into numerous buyers, because the high end, typically, the high end is at the end of someone's buying cycle. The low end is the beginning of the buying cycle, right? I'm not saying to go out and tell you which demographic of price point that you should sell or buy in, but do your homework. That's the point of that. Find out where the game is and go where the game is at. Okay? All right. Let's go to page 14 in your books. We're going to camp here just for a little bit because I want to make sure that we get these points home. On the very top, it says, for me, a lead is someone who is ready, willing, and able to do business now. Okay, so RWA, ready, willing, able. I like acronyms, excuse me. And so I just basically swap the A and the W. I like raw, okay? It's raw, or if you're into like Pirates of the Caribbean, you can switch it around and be R. I don't care, it doesn't matter, right? It's you ready, able, willing. These are the 3 criteria. Ready is the reason or motivation to move now. Willing is they're agreeable to do what it takes to move now, and they have the means to do it, is they're able with the transaction. They are pre-approved and can afford to buy or sell now. Okay, so ready on your notes. Ready equals time. Ready equals time. Able equals $, which is your financing or cash. And willing equals your why or your question mark. Put a question mark. Willing equals why / question mark. These are the 3 criterias that should be in just about every single conversation that you have with someone. This gives you the foundation to be able to move forward, or to realize that we need to pull back on the reins just a little bit and just let the horse go. Okay. In a market where there is a retraction of the pool of buyers and sellers, it means that we need to be working with people or individuals that the three statements are bolded on each of those areas that are now. When I first, and this is I'll just be transparent. When I first started in real estate, I had generated like, I don't know, I worked very first year, I worked Waikiki, only Waikiki, because there was high volume and it was like a 3.5 mile radius of like, that's it. That was very small distance to travel, and I could just go through and pound out every single building, know where to park, it just was, anyways, that's where I cut my teeth on. In that process, though, what I realized is I wasn't taught this. So I didn't ask the timing question a lot of times. So I would be outgoing, showing people properties. Oh yeah, thank you for showing us this. We're gonna wait by next year when we retire. I'm like, what the heck just happened? Right? So we have to always make sure we understand what someone's time is, understand the ability as far as their finances, money, and their willingness, which is their why, their question mark. Okay, so write this down. This is a script. When it comes to blank, what does that look like? When it comes to blank, what does that look like? Or another version of that script is this: as far as blank is concerned, what does that look like? Excuse me. So one script is when it comes to blank, what does it look like? Another script is as far as blank is concerned, what does that look like? And here's what I mean by that. Red equals what? Red equals time. Mr. and Mrs. Buyer, as far as your timing is concerned, what does that look like? Very straightforward, right? Oh, we're gonna be moving here in like in a year's or what our planned transition is. Oh, perfect. Thank you for sharing. What's producing that year timeline for you? Now you start digging down, right? Well, we just want to have this one last, time. This is literally a conversation I had with the buyer. We want to have our last summer. We're going to celebrate in San Francisco, and then we want to move here. Cool. What would it look like, Mr. Buyer, if we were to find that place for you? Is that timeline, can we move that up or back, or is that just a hard fixed timeline? Oh no, we can move. Okay, we can move it. Perfect. Why don't we go out? Let's go take a look at some properties. I know it's a year out, you're in the back door. Let's just go out and look at the inventory so you're familiar with it. Guess what we did that first showing? We took them out. They found the property that they love and they bought a house almost a year early. The key is this: typically any of these can be moved left or right. It's up to you as the agent to gather enough information to be able to convert and move them left and right. Some are hard fixed, and if they are, leave it alone. Just keep cultivating them. Okay. So then let's just go with willing. Mr. and Mrs. Buyer, as far as your desire to purchase the property is concerned, what's your motivation for buying? Okay, same script. What's producing that desire? Use softer words when you have conversations with people. And especially when it comes to the able, when it comes to, if we were to find the perfect one, when it comes to moving forward, would you be moving forward with financing or with cash? The reason why you put financing first is typically that communicates to them what my expectation is. And if I say cash first or financing, and they're not fine with cash, how does that make them feel? Possibly inferior, right? So be very strategic in how your word selection is when you have a conversation. Okay? Any questions on that? We're good? All right, let's go to the next one. As far as the capture, so every lead is can be broken down to 3 categories. They're either now, ready, able, willing. They're a future buyer, like their timeline or something is prohibiting. Maybe they have one late score on their credit, and now they have to wait for another 6 months before they can actually buy. Like it's a future buyer or it's a never buyer. Okay. Those are your the three categories. And it's up to us in this process to get through to ask the questions to make sure that we have the utmost clarity as far as what bucket or what category we can put them in. Okay. You know what you call a real estate agent that takes buyers around, but they never buy?
Chauffeur.
Taxi driver. Right, or Uber driver or a chauffeur, you're 100% correct. You are not in that business. You are a professional that sells real estate. Okay. And you're there to help someone by helping someone. The end result and expectation of every real estate agent should be that there is a transaction that takes place. And because you believe that you are the best real estate agent in this entire market, if you're helping someone, let's say I was a doctor, and someone wheels someone in and they got a little cut on their little pinky finger. It's a flesh wound, doctor, can you fix it? You're like looking at them like, oh, okay. So you start fixing this, and every time you get near them, they go, ow! Every time, to the point where it takes you 15 minutes to fix, just put a Band-Aid on their finger. What would happen if in that exact moment, 10 seconds later, they wheel in some dude that got shot in the chest, and you're the surgeon? And you're choosing to deal with the people that have cuts on their pinkies that need Band-Aids versus someone that needs the actual triage and help of saving their life. Remember that when you profile your buyers, because not all buyers are at the point of where they're ready to move forward, or sellers ready to move forward, and you are a professional. And you need to choose who it is you're going to save, right?
What do you do when feel like what they're telling you and their actions are like? How do you handle those conversations?
Give me an example.
So like I had a buyer who said they were ready, willing, and able to buy, but there were multiple times where we even had an offer accepted and backed out.
Okay.
And it never even came to fruition. They ended up making mistakes. What they were telling me didn't match with what they actually like. So how do you I guess, how do you?
No scenario.
I was new to the business too, so
Sure.
I didn't know how to handle what's expiring then, but also how do you?
So in those scenarios, thank you for sharing, but in those scenarios, you want to have language that allows someone to be de-armored so that they open up, right?
Thank you, I'm gonna continue the.
Thank you. Okay, thank you. So part of that is using language that's going to allow you to arrive to that and introduce that into the relationship, if you will. The depth of the conversation is the depth of the relationship. And that's a principle. And if we're not willing to have in-depth conversations and are only willing to, not saying you, but an individual is only willing to have surface conversations, that relationship will only be surface, right? How's your day? Good. What'd you do? Oh, nothing. Right? How'd you feel? Oh, okay. Right, that was it, right? Versus how was your day? Oh man, it was absolutely amazing. You go into detail, right? The depth of the conversation is the depth of the relationship. In that type of specific scenario, one way to handle that would be to be very transparent. Mr. and Mrs. Buyer, it seems like there's a little bit of hesitation on your part. And I'd like to, if you're open to it, would you be willing to have the conversation with me so that we can kind of figure out exactly what that is? Because the reality is I want to help you move forward with your financial freedom, with being able to potentially purchase a home. But if it's not something that you're comfortable with, if there's something that's stopping you, let's have those conversations. So at least we're at a place where we both can move forward with something and you guys will be happy with what we're moving forward with your buyer, with your home purchase. Or if you're not comfortable with it, that's okay. Let's just have the upfront conversation with each other so that we are at a place where you can move to a place where you will be comfortable. So you can have that level of conversation, or let's say they're in, hey, Mr. and Mrs. Buyer, this is third transaction you've canceled on. We missed it, and I'm so sorry. We missed it somewhere. Can we have a go back through the consultation of buyers' wants and needs and go through that process again, just so that we're on the same page? Is it a process? Is it that maybe we've skipped? Is it something about the product that maybe it's not lining up with what you want? Let's have that conversation. Would you be open to that? Sure. We're going to say no. They say no, I say, okay, well, then if we're not willing to have that level of conversation, then it's just like if you were to go to a doctor, Mr. and Mrs. Buyer, and the doctor were to ask you, where is your pain? And you say, everywhere. I say, okay, well, what does everywhere mean? Everywhere. That doesn't help the doctor, it doesn't help you. And in this case, it's not gonna help you, and it's definitely not gonna help to be able to serve you, to get you to where you wanna go, which is homeownership. That's what you wanted, right? So it's having those types of conversations with someone. A soft, direct approach is what most people want. In some cases, you gotta be a little harder with someone, and when I say hard, you just rough them up. But you know,
A couple of like-
Yeah.
Sure. Your words can cut, and they can also heal. So it's applying the right type of word selection in combination with your delivery of your tonality, with your empathy, introducing that into the conversation so that someone truly knows, dude, this man or whoever, this agent cares about me. They really want what's best for me. What I've found that also works is you leave a back door. Most people, when you back them into a corner, like a pig, right, it's gonna come out charging. So you get in the back door, let them run away if they want to. What I've found is that probably 80 to 90% of people will not run away. They just want to know there's a back door, that's it. So have non-committal language, like, hey, Mr. and Mrs. Buyer, we're gonna go out, we're gonna take a look at properties. I know this is your first time. We're gonna take a look at properties. At any point, if you're not, let's say we're at the, they went through, they love this property, they want to put an offer in, there is still the J1 time period. So you can back out if you do want to. So don't feel like you're trapped, right? So give them the back door. Don't encourage them to use it. Just say, hey, the back door's over there, right?
Then move the back door.
Then lock it. No, I'm kidding. Wow. Okay, let's go to the next one. Methods of capture. Look on 16 to the top of the page. I'm gonna zip through some of this stuff. Not on this one though. Methods of capture is how you're actually capturing business. Okay. If you have the shift book, look on page 65. I'm gonna do a rabbit trail with you guys real quick. Our business, every person's individual's real estate business. Here we go. Okay, every business, this is pretend like it's different color. Let's say it's a stream, so it's green. Okay, it's like a river. That's your real estate business. Okay, it's like a river. What feeds a river? What are they called? They feed rivers and make them bigger and bigger and bigger as they continue down. Oh, Jesus have mercy. Sorry about that. I got aggressive right there. As they travel down and get to the ocean, they get larger and larger typically. What feeds a river? Streams starts with, and it also starts with a T, tributary. Ooh, that's a fancy word. Okay, tributary. So there's tributaries that feed our real estate business. A tributary was also what we call in our business as a lead gen lever. On page 65 of the shift book, there are tributaries or lead gen levers that are broken into two categories. There's a book back there if you want. There are prospecting and marketing. Prospecting and marketing are your two types of tributaries, okay? Now, within the tributaries, there's on the left side, you have FSBOs for telemarketing, there's expires, just listed, just sold, past clients, allied resources, blah, blah, blah. There's all those types of tributaries. So what's a common tributary for a real estate agent that would normally feed the real estate business? Starts with the O and ends in pen. Open what?
Open house.
Open house, okay, great. What's another one?
Cold call.
Cold calling could be one, okay.
That's fine.
Huh?
That's fine.
Past clients, so we'll classify it as SOI, sphere of influence. Would that be okay? Okay, sphere of influence, what else? Huh? Door knocking. Look at you, little Sam. Door knocking, okay. Anything else?
Seminars.
Seminars would be a good one. Anything else? Community networking, right? Okay. I'll put the community events. Right. Here's the purpose in this. These become your sources, lead gen levers, or your sources of how you're capturing business. Which means that with each of these sources, there needs to be a strategic plan that goes into each of those areas. Okay, I'll just take, we'll take open houses. It's in, there's in the book somewhere, I don't know, it's the steps for open house or whatever it is. You're probably gonna learn about it, or you have learned about it. We'll just roll through real quick. So open house, it's laying out a system that allows you to have a duplicatable process. Say 65 is where the list of it is. Okay. A duplicatable process, meaning this: when I sit open house, I'm going to have information that I can deliver to someone and be of value to them. And I'm also going to have some a means to be able to what? Capture their information, right? Where it's all about capturing. If you don't capture their information, what are you doing? You a house sitter. That's not even being paid, right? You're literally sitting in someone else's house with no end state of why you're there in the first place. So with each of the tributaries that exist, we need to have a very systematic way of how we approach it, okay? We're not going to get into it on this one in this class, because it's going to be a lot longer. But write that down on one of your success lists, is going back and reviewing your business to see what type of prospecting or marketing am I doing that's feeding my real estate business. Now, I'm going to be straight up with you. I'm like almost 3/4 Asian. I'm really 50% Chinese and I'm 50% Caucasian. But guess what's the last part of the word Caucasian? Asian. I'm 3/4 Asian. Prospecting is going to be more on the side of you going out and getting the business. It's like grabbing your spear gun, jumping in the water. Oh, I'm eating that fish tonight. Marketing is passive. It also costs more money. That's like getting a fishing pole and throwing it into the water and, sitting back on the beach. I don't drink, but you're sitting back and sucking them up until something bites your line, right? Very passive, okay? The difference between the two is one is active. You can literally be assertive and say, this is where the direction that I'm going in. And it's, how much does an open house cost? Basically free, right? You're 10 cents for your, whatever, how much you cost for color?
Wait.
Ooh, inflation. We're at 20% now, regular coffees. But the reality is that it's very cheap and effective, right? I mean, you can spend like $20 and have an open house. You can bring your scented candles from Costco or whatever it is that you do, but you can set it up. My point is this: prospecting is something that is typically cheaper, more effective, or cost effective rather, and it becomes more effective because you're out there going and getting the business, okay? So when you build your tributaries and decide what it is you want to do to build your real estate business, please include at least 2 to maybe even 3 prospecting legs. Here's an important part of that. You guys know that in the wintertime it rains, in the summertime it's a little more drier, right? Historically. If it doesn't rain, what happens to potentially one of the tributaries to your river? It dries up, right? And then it rains again. Okay, case in point would be short sales. When the market was going down in 2008, 9, 10, and partly in 11, there was a lot of short sales. Market started heading up, there's no more short sales. It's going to start to transition, which means short sales are probably going to start to come back again. okay? That's part of going where the game is at. It's making sure that we build our businesses with enough tributaries that allow our business to continue to flourish, okay? Any questions on that? All right. On page 17, as far as phone calls are concerned, when you do get a phone call, answer your phone. Make a good impression, answer quickly, speak with confidence, speak warmly. They'll be like, who dis? Right? That's not gonna be encouraging conversation to someone that wants to buy a house. And for the love of God, please make sure your voicemails are professional. It's like, hello, I call an agent. Hello? Hello? Got you. Leave a message. I'm like, what the heck? Could you manage your client? And that's the type of voicemail that's there. You are a professional. Everything that we do should be catered towards that, okay? So double check your recorded voicemails. There was one dude, he did it in a plane. You know, the white that you hear in the plane? And I called, he was a lender. I called him, I was like, dude, you may want to change your voicemail. It just sounds like you're in a plane. He goes, how'd you know? I'm like, because it sounds like you're in a plane. I'm like, you can leave it on there. I'm not trying to tell you what to do in your business, but you know, change your voicemail. So in that, just go back and this is part of the systems of going back and just check it, double check it, okay? All right, now, in terms of systems for capturing, how are we doing it? Is it gonna be online or offline? Look over into page 19.
What page?
Page 19, the top right, under capture. Think about all the way, I'm gonna just read the top real quick. Think about all the ways you receive leads. When you are phone prospecting, most likely you have a lead sheet in front of you or a contact management software running, a program running on a computer monitor in front of you. And you can immediately enter the lead's name, phone number, and other pertinent information. Many times though, leads don't come to you at convenient times. Okay, and the inconvenient times are listed here. Like a phone call when you're driving, a casual conversation, someone passes you a piece of scrap paper with their information on it. There's an email that pops up on your phone, or a friend tells you that someone is in need of your services. Here's my question to you. We're going to brainstorm for literally like 1 to 2 minutes. In each of these areas, because this is a potential issue that could arise, we already think of what the solution would be. In your business, if you see something that's popping up, that's an issue, take a time out and think of what the solution would be. So either it's typically going to be leverage. It's either a system, a tool, or a person is what solves most issues in business. System, tool, or person. So in this case, let's say you're driving in the car and or you're at an appointment. What would be one way to capture someone's information if they were to call you while you're in the car?
And you don't answer, you don't.
You did answer. You're talking to them on the phone.
Ask them to text you that information.
Okay, so ask them to text you would be one. What would be another one? It's old school. It's analog. A notebook. There it is.
Yeah.
Have a notebook or notepad next to you in your car. So you can literally write it down. Yes. What's your name?
I'm Sarah.
Hi, Sarah. Nice to meet you. Hi.
I use the voice recorder
Perfect.
on my phone when I'm driving, when I have it up. So if I need to like make a note about something someone said, just push the little text thing and I just say it and then I just like leave it there.
Perfect. So that could be maybe after the phone call, right? You can do a voice text after. So those are all 3 solutions. So what have we just done? There's an issue. What are some potential solutions? And have I prepared myself for those solutions? Do I have a notebook? Everyone's got phones that can text you. Or do I have the voice recorder app, right? So we're starting to think ahead. What about a casual conversation in a coffee shop? So yeah, probably similar, right? One thing that we have done is your contact information for yourself should be saved on your phone. Like it says Rustan Tongg. And you know where it's located? Under my favorites. So if someone says, we're having a conversation, oh, I want to buy a house. Okay, perfect. Carrie, what was your name? Cammy, forgive me. Cammy, perfect. What I'm going to do is I'm going to text you my contact information. I don't have any business card, sorry about that. What have I just done? I'm able to get her phone number without even asking for her phone number, and I text my information on there. And you have your name, you can have your first, last, but your company name, you can put, you know, KW Honolulu, but you can also put in their best real estate ever or whatever. I don't know, have fun with it, okay? But have your information in there and just send it to them. What about a piece of scrap paper?
Take a picture of it.
Ooh, you smart. Exactly right. Take a photo of it. And then what should we do with that photo?
Take it as a favorite. Put the information.
Yes, and
Later.
and you can text yourself. I look like a crazy person. I mean, I don't answer myself back, but I do text myself, and it shows up on my own text thread, right? Email pops up. Same thing, could be a screenshot. And then a friend, oh, this is a good one. A friend tells you someone may need your services. What would be a good response for that?
Ask for their phone number.
Would be one. What would be another one? Starts with a G and ends in group. Second word is T-X. There it is.
Take an
Text.
introduction.
Group text. That's the most informal and inclusive way to start conversation. Hey, I got a friend, he wants to buy. I gave him your card. Perfect. Thank you so much for that. I appreciate that. Would you also be willing to do a group text and just text us both? And then that way, what that does is it allows us to just start a conversation, and at least it takes the, you know, the edge off of someone. I don't know who this person is, should I call them? So if you could, and you would, if you wouldn't mind, would you be able to do that? Yeah, sure. Okay. And I can text you. Yeah. So whatever your preferred method is, figure that out ahead of time, and then have your system in place and be ready for it. Okay. All right, we're going to move to number 2, which is connect. This is going to be on a no page, which is page 21. As far as connecting is concerned, we want to be as responsive as possible. Okay, so we want to answer calls immediately, respond to inquiry within typically 5 minutes. If you can't respond, then have those auto responders on your text message. It says, hey, I'm in a meeting. I apologize for not being able to answer your call meeting. I'll call you back after, right? You can do, you know, do those auto responders, right, on your text messages. If you don't, just write down auto responder on your notes, and then we'll be able to, Carrie can help you with that after. Thanks, Carrie. And then if you don't respond quickly, someone else will, okay? So we want to create a response time that's going to be really conducive to being able to get business going. All right. Reasons for conversion. We're going to slow down here just for about 2 to 3 minutes. On the top of that page 22, the prime goal of connecting is to have a two-way conversation, right? Two-way conversation, determine the consumer's urgency and motivation. And be sure to, and then circle the word listen. When we ask enough questions, open-ended questions, and we hear the answers, we should be listening. Not just listening for what they're saying, but how they're speaking. Do they use like cool, awesome, wow? Like what type of vernacular do they use? And then start, not that you're imitating and being disrespectful, but slip that word in 1 or 2 times, because that's gonna make them feel comfortable, right? Because that's gonna be, now, I don't know, they got some millennial language. I have no idea what they're saying. And it's like, what did you just say? Like they say like dog water. I don't know what, like, anyways, let's not go there. To the best of your ability, attempt to communicate with somebody. All right. In conversion, the reasons for converting is to identify the motivated. Ultimately, the end goal is to set an appointment. We want to provide custom answers, build purposeful business relationships, move buyers to pre-approval, and then begin action plans. Here's what I do want to, on the bottom of the middle of that page, it says the conversation is the relationship. I will put depth of the conversation as the depth of the relationship. That's a really good book too, Fierce Conversations as well. Flip over to the next page. We're gonna go through some different questions. So these are gonna be different questions in terms of that we can ask buyers. Now I'm gonna do a rabbit trail here. There's a bold law that says logic makes them what? Think. Emotion makes them what?
Act.
Emotion makes them act. Have you ever been in a scenario? Okay, so if emotion makes some, and here's another principle. History does not repeat itself, people do. When we understand the makeup of a man or a woman, we can anticipate what their potential actions are. We can also anticipate how to get them to move forward. Okay, so history doesn't repeat itself, people do. So if we understand that logic makes someone think and emotion makes them act, sidebar, there's a great book. It is called Emotional Intelligence 2.0. Bradbury is the author. So just put little B in your column and circle it. That's a book to check out. Okay. So emotional intelligence 2.0. All right. Now, the purpose of emotion makes them, logic makes them think and emotion makes them act. The purpose of that is that if we can keep someone in an emotional state, typically they're going to be able to move forward. Okay. Which means that the word selection that we use should be emotionally based or encourage someone to stay in that emotional place. There's a cliche-ish closing line that I associate with car salesmen. Is typically they'll say, after they present the car, they say, so what do you, what, blank, complete that sentence. What do you think? By saying, what do you think, what has that individual just done? They threw them into an emotional state or a logic state. Logic, 100%. So the word selection in our closing statements of us closing from one phase and moving into the next should remain in an emotional place or emotional words. Okay. So for example, how does that sound? Is a sensory word. It keeps people in an emotional place. How does that feel? It's also sensory. It's keeps them in the emotional. You ever been in a situation where you're like, oh, dude, I don't know if I should do that. It doesn't look good, but it's gonna feel great. And you jump in, you do whatever the stupid thing you're about to do, right? Like surf too big. Or have you heard the opposite, where everything checks out and I actually feel good about it, I'm gonna do it. There's always the emotion is what makes someone act, okay? There's only one emotion that allows someone to be able to move forward, whether you're a buyer or a seller. Do you know what that emotion is? For someone to be able to move forward. Starts with a C. Confidence. Starts with a C and ends in comfort. Comfortable, right? You have to feel comfortable, which means that we should intertwine that word selection within what our statements are, right? Here's an example. Now look at the first for motivation. How soon do you need to be in a home, right? Or one way to ask that same question is, Mr. and Mrs. Buyer, what's your comfort timeline? Or what's a timeline that's comfortable for you? Okay, features. Describe your perfect home. How many bedrooms do you need? Or add in the word, how many bedrooms or bathrooms would you be comfortable with? What's your price range? What price range do you have in mind? Or number 3, what's your comfort price range? Or what are you comfortable with each month paying? Agent, I personally never asked this question. Well, I do, but in a different way. I don't say, have you been seeing homes? Have you already signed an agreement with an agent? What I do ask is, where are you in the buying process? Where are you in the buying process? Oh, I've been going out with agents and looking at homes. Or, oh, I don't know, I just haven't even started yet. Where are you in the process? Gives you a lot of information. It's a very open-ended question. Financing, Out of curiosity, are you going to be, I don't say paying, I just say, are you moving forward? Because hence the word moving forward. Are you comfortable moving forward with financing, or are you comfortable moving forward with cash? I'm going to tell just like a 30-second story. This is along the lines of NLP, which is neuro-linguistic programming. It's kind of the basis of what we're going through. And there was a buyer's agent that we had, and he didn't believe in this stuff. Like, I don't believe in that stuff. That stuff doesn't work. Okay. I said, what's the emotion, one emotion that a buyer or seller have to feel? He said comfortable. I'm like, all right, you're going to come with me on the next buyer's consultation. So we did. Before we got there, it was a single mom. She had 2 kids, and she was the first time buying a home. And we got there like purposely half an hour early, got our coffees, sat down with them. I said, look, bro, I'm going to say the word comfortable because that's the emotion we want to produce in this lady, in this client. I'm going to say the word comfortable, and I want you to very nonchalantly make little tick marks on a piece of paper as we go through the buyer consultation. Client comes in, she sits down, Mrs. Smith, how are you feeling today? I feel a little nervous. This is my first time doing this. I'm a single mom, and I don't know if it's going to be right for me. Perfect. I completely understand. Thank you for sharing that. The purpose of today is for you to feel comfortable. And then if you did want to move forward and you are comfortable moving forward, then we move forward. If you're not comfortable moving forward, then we don't move forward. Comfortable. Do the entire process. We got done at the very end, asked a very simple question. Mrs. Smith, we went through the entire consultation from start to finish. We answered all your questions. How do you feel right now? I feel so comfortable. Literally, those were her words. Buyer's agent about falls off the chair. He's like, what the heck is this voodoo? Like, ain't voodoo, bro. It's understanding the makeup of a man or woman and then being able to cater to that so that you can be effective in what you're doing, which is helping people. So think back to your, this is gonna hurt. Think back to your relationships that you have in your business or personal life. What type of word selection are you using, and what type of emotion is it creating in those that are across from you? I'm not saying everyone's perfect, no one is. But the seed that we sow is producing a harvest in your life, in your relationships, and also in your business. Okay. All right, let's go to 24. These are all sample questions. You can go through these, all sample questions for both buyers and also for sellers. If you look on page 95 of your shift book, they actually have the six connection questions. Just write that down on your notes so you have that. And read through those. So who are they? So part of that is tell me a little bit about yourself. Pardon me, tell me about yourself. What do they want or need? Number 3. Number 4 is where do they want or need it? Need to do it. That basically is dream state. And then your last question 4, 5, and 6 have to do with your raw, which is ready, able, willing. Why do they need or want to do it? Right, that's your motive, your why. Number 5 is when do they need to do it? That's your time. And how do they plan to do it? That's your cash or financing. Okay. So literally these questions are just framed a different way, but it basically is information gathering, dream state, raw, RAW, ready, able, willing. Okay. Dream state is literally switching someone into a limbic state or into the emotional part of their brain that gets them to dream about their owning a home. Okay. So that's what those are great connection questions that we can go through. Let's see, those are sample questions. We went through those. Okay, as far as asking for the appointment, there's a principle, and here's a principle. He or she who asks the questions controls the what?
Conversation.
There it is. He or she who asks the questions controls the conversation. When you transition in your phases from greet and meet to buyer's consultation to showings to writing the contract, there's a transition piece that takes place, right? You're transitioning from showing to writing a contract. It's very clear. A a templated script that allows you to transition with I don't care what phase you're in. It would sound something like this. So here's what we're gonna do, ... How does that sound? So here's what we're gonna do, how does that sound? Mr. and Mrs. Buyer, we just went through and took a look at a bunch of properties. You know, you've labeled your top 3 that you absolutely love. So here's what we're gonna do. I'm gonna go back and get the information from the seller to see their purpose or intent for selling or what their motivation for selling is. I'm also gonna run the comps, and then we're gonna be able to put together a good price for you to be able to submit an offer. How does that sound? So here's what we're gonna do. How does that sound? Okay. That has kept and transitioned more people through the buying process to the point where our average, this is assuming that there's inventory, that our average for converting buyers from the time that we just meet you just off the street to the time that you have an accepted contract, our average is 7 days. Because we elevate someone in an emotional state and keep them in that place all the way through the process. That's our track record, 7 days. That's not just me. That is every single one of the agents that we have trained. That's the expected time when there's product. Okay, so what I'm sharing with you is actual street knowledge that works, and that is exactly what I'm teaching kids. Well, I call them kids, but okay, they're like our kids. When you're having conversations with someone and you're asking the open-ended questions and we are taking notes, please be sure to enter that into your database. That becomes an opportunity for a future conversation. And also an opportunity for a reference point. Okay, so we're talking and you've got 3 kids and one of them just broke their arm, okay? So I can call Sam, like literally, let's say I call her 2 weeks later. Hey, Sam, how's little Johnny? He broke his arm and just want to check in and see how he's doing. Oh, that's so thoughtful. Thank you so much. Right, we're there to connect with people and build a relationship. You guys know how to build a relationship? Okay, we're playing Pictionary. We're playing Pictionary and I was drawing and the category was real estate. What would that be? A building. Perfect. Yeah, it's okay. I did not get my degree or anything. Yeah, back in that fact. I didn't go to college. Went to seminary. But building, so it's a building. What is every building built on? Foundation. Foundation. What secures every foundation?
Footing.
Say again?
Footing.
Footing starts with a P. Pylons, there you go. If building equals relationship, some of you have heard this before, but that's okay. If building equals relationship, what is a foundation? What does every relationship have to be built on? Foundation of what? Trust. How do you secure or root trust?
Your actions.
Okay, that's part of it. That's how you communicate it. Communication is how you deliver it. What's that?
Knowing of the person.
Right. That's knowing, and it has to be communicated. So you're on the right track. Starts with one word and ends in, starts with C, ends in air. Okay. This is a blanket principle. I just want to have a good relationship with him or her. Yes.
What's the P word?
Pylon. Sorry, my spelling's bad. I know my spelling is bad. Pylon. Pylon. This could be a structure or a footing, depending. But pylons are what they dig at the rebar and concrete and all that junk. Building a tall building, dig really far down. Then you just, for like 3 months, just putting all these things in the ground. All of a sudden, a foundation appears, the building goes up super quick because they spent time building the foundation. Or in this case, the pylons. For the building to go higher or wider, it's limited by its foundation, right? And a foundation is limited on how wide it is based upon the pylons that are securing it into the ground, okay? So the way to build a bigger or wider relationship is to do one thing. You have to communicate one thing, which is that you care. So here's a question I want you to write down. How am I going to communicate that I care? How am I going to communicate that I care? In order to be able to communicate that I care, if I were to do that, that's going to be able to allow trust to be, more pylons of care to be put in the ground, it allows trust or the foundation to be extended, and then the building to be able to go up higher or wider or whatever it is that we're building, right? It increases the relationship. In asking that one question and answering it, that also means that we have to understand the personality types. We have to understand who it is that's across the table from us. We've asked enough open-ended questions to understand that they like to golf, they are allergic to dogs and whatever else it is that's a part of them. Because what would it look like, in an example with Sam, if I were to call and I ask about her child who just broke their arm and see how they're feeling? How is that going to make her feel? Holy cow. Took the time out of the day to communicate that I care. What would it look like then if I were to follow up and send, I don't know, a coloring book, depending on whatever it is, depending upon the child's age, and say, hey, I hope you're feeling better. What does that communicate? It communicates that you care. Care. They are going to trust you. That relationship will flourish because you're sowing the right seed to produce the right harvest. This is a people business, which means that it is a relationship business, which means the only way that we're going to have relationships is if we can communicate that we care. So enter the details in the database. All right. Okay, we're going to zip through this. My pleasure. Thank you. Okay, number 3 is going to be cultivating. So cultivating is basically going to be cementing the relationships through action plans. We want to maintain top of mind awareness. We're going to continue to provide value. And then on your communication, you want to prioritize how often you communicate to them. And then this is we're on page, I don't know what it is, 27. And we want to increase opportunity to convert to appointment. And number 6 is not on there, but put it on there. It's number 6 is ask for business. Always want to ask for business. Don't be creepy about it, and be strategic about it. Okay. We also use technology in following up. So they have what are called action plans, and Kerry actually teaches a course on it. Well, he teaches a course on command, and they have action plans that are within there. And typically there's classes that are Monday through Friday. There's Scott Leroy does marketing. Is that what it is? Kerry?
Total platform, right? App, website, smart plans. And
Perfect on technology. Okay, thank you. And then the 2nd and 4th Friday is Tech Friday with Kerry. So if you haven't signed up for that, make sure you get into those classes because he can help you put together the action plans, whether it is 8x8 or touch or what have you, and it can help you start to have consistent communication with your database, and you're literally starting to cultivate them. Okay.
And just to add really quick, to first Wednesdays and third Mondays, and it's all on the training calendar. Our regional trainer, Zach Younger, teaches whatever's hot and going on in command. And so we're talking about lead capture. Your websites now, you can have that option where you have they look at a couple of properties, and then that lead capture form comes out. That's brand new, and they just talked about that this morning on the training. So really good stuff. All that you're connected.
A lot of good technology. So put it in your calendar to make some time to please participate in that. Always update your database on page 29, and whether it's marriage, divorce, new baby, transitions in life, like keep that information. What's the importance of that information? It's an opportunity to communicate that you care, which gives you a reason to touch them, right? If you don't have the information, you don't know if they're graduating in like 6 days, how are you gonna call and congratulate them? Are we gonna be the latecomers, or it's like, oh yeah, congratulations, your kid like graduated, right? Like 3 months ago or something like that. Be proactive, because that's how you continue to communicate care. All right, let's go to conversion. We're gonna be on page 31. As far as converting is concerned, we want to have as much knowledge as possible. Basically, it's information, service, and then transactions are the 3 parts. And the information piece is what gives you the credibility. Okay. So have your Oahu statistical report, go through and memorize it. What's the current days on market? What is our current median sales price for condos and single families? Like, have that information available and in your head, actually, so you can have those levels of conversations. And then in terms of your great communication skills, I would absolutely have at least between 3 to 5 open-ended questions memorized. Okay. So one open-ended we just asked Sam earlier was, tell me a little bit about yourself. A digging open-ended question: when you say blank, what does that mean? Or when you say blank, tell me a little bit more about that. Okay. On 32 for converting, there's one thing that we always want to do, which is tracking our numbers. What's the important about tracking our numbers? Anyone?
What works and what doesn't.
That's correct. So we know what works and what doesn't. We know what our conversion ratios are. I know that if I were to make 100 phone calls, and that's going to give me 20 contacts, and of those 20 contacts, I'm making numbers up, I'm going to set 5 appointments, and of those 5 appointments, I'm going to have a 50% conversion ratio, so I'll have 2.5 because they got a dog, and then of those that convert to appointments and actually escrows, it's going to be a 50-50 follow, let's just say. So I have to make 100 dials to reach 20 people to equal 1 escrow. That's how precise we need to know what our business is and the actions that we take in it. You can grab these afterwards, but these are daily success trackers. It has your dials, your contacts, and your voice to voices. Okay? And you literally just put a little ticker mark. We want to be strategic in that because it also points out where our weak points are. If we know that we have 500 calls and we only have 3 contacts, what does that tell you? Maybe we should contact a different pool of potential lead sources, right? Like, are we calling a lead source that's going to produce the results that we want? Okay. And then when you have the conversation, make sure that we do enter them into our database. Okay. Let's look on page 34. In this converting process, there's an absolute yes and an absolute no. A lot of people are in the middle. Hey, Mr. and Mrs. Buyer, would you like to move forward and purchase the property? No. They can say no, but the reality is, if I were to ask and say, what's producing that hesitation? Well, I've got like 2 years before I retire and then I'm gonna buy. Okay, so it's not a firm no, it's not an absolute no, it's still on the fence no. Okay, then it's up to me, once I've defined that, it's up to me to continue following up so that we can actually convert the business, right? Any questions on that? On the next 2 slides, there's going to be reasons as far as why they're not right. Okay, so for example, not motivated to, this is for sellers, not motivated to price correctly. Are they not motivated to get the property in good selling condition? There's no urgency to get out of the house. So We're on page 34. I'm sorry, I'm zipping. Because I took a lot of rabbit trails and
You're a hunter, that's okay.
I saw the game and I chased it. We only got like 3 more pages. Are you guys okay staying like another five minutes or so? 10 minutes? Thank you. So in getting to the table, we want to make sure that we define why someone potentially is not the now type of buyer. Okay. And part of that is going through and making sure that the raw questions was out. Well, the yes question, asking the raw questions, right? Are they ready? Are they able? Are they willing? Is their timing off? Is their motivation for purchasing? Is that what's stopping them? Maybe we just had a buyer, literally had an accepted contract, and his tenant normally auto deposits into account, which auto pays his the mortgage for an investment property. The tenant didn't make the deposit. So we're just about to get through J1, and they repulled, because it just crossed over to, they repulled his credit to look, because the rates, anyway, so they repulled everything. Guess what? That late market, derogatory market is now on his credit score, the credit report. Can't buy for, well, 6 months to a year in some cases, depending upon lender. We had to cancel the contract. It wasn't a cheap contract either. The point is this, is that we want to make sure that we're having the level of conversations with the buyers that we're, so Mr. and Mrs. Buyer, this is a personal question. If you're not comfortable answering it, you don't have to answer it. As far as your, do you have any derogatory or remarks on there? Oh, actually, you don't have to ask that. The lender will figure that out. Don't even go on that path. But that is a good question to ask or lead into is, Mr. and Mrs. Buyer, I'm going to ask a personal question. And if you're not comfortable answering, you don't have to. And then ask the question. Excuse me. Very rarely will they ever say, no, I'm not going to answer that question. They always will just answer. Okay. So we definitely want to find out and profile the buyers to be able to move them forward, or sellers in this case. This asking for business piece, most people are scared. They don't want to ask for business, and I can understand where that concern is coming from, but the reality is that if in providing the level of information that you have, it should be a natural transition. What I've found that has allowed a desensitizing of this traumatic event of you asking for business is what's called setting expectations. Before we transition, this is street now. Before we transition, remember the phase of any buyer cycle, meet and greet, right? After you meet and greet someone, what should you do? BC, which stands for a what? Buyers what? Buyers consultation. Buyers consult. Once you go back to do the consultation, what they have dialogue with the lender, they get pre-approved, and then our phase, we take them out on what? Showings. After we go out on showings, what should take place?
Offer.
They better write an offer. Okay. Offer gets accepted, they go into escrow. And once they close, they go back into your database, which is your basically relationship, right? Now, I'll just do this one. We get done with the buyer's consultation, we're going on our first showing. The first statement, when we get into the car, Mr. and Mrs. Buyer, here are the pack of papers, or excuse me, here is the list of the homes that we're going to see today. What we're going to do is we're going to go through each one. I need your help with something. I need you to go through and give a nickname to each of the properties, because by the time we get to that third property, you'll be like, what property was that last one? So we're going to give it nicknames, so there's a recall portion of that. Okay. After we go through all of our showings, what we're going to do is we're going to rate the top 3 properties. You're going to say the cat property, the greenhouse, or the long yard property. And then what we're going to do is I'm going to go back, get the information from the sellers as the motivation as to why they're selling. We're going to run the comparables or the past solds so that we can determine what would be a good price for that particular offer that we're gonna put together. How does that sound? Sounds great. We're gonna say no, of course you're gonna say it sounds great. Then what do? You go on your showings, you nickname the properties, you're literally setting the expectation of what you're going to do. So when we're done with showings, what do? Mr. and Mrs. Buyer, of the 5 properties that we saw, which are your top 3? They name them. Mrs. Smith, of your, yeah, they're not related. Mrs. Smith, what were your top 3? I like 3, 2, 1. She likes 1, 2, 3. It sounds like number 2 is both of your guys' favorite, because 1 is, well, really typically the wife wins anyway, but anyways, let's just assume typically number 2 is your both combined favorite. So what we'll do is we'll go back and get the information, go through the process, get all of the motivation or reason as to why the seller is selling. We'll put together the comparables. We'll be able to review those, and then be able to put together an offer. How does that sound? Sounds great. All we did was set the expectation, and then when we were done, we followed through with what we were saying. We repeated what the next process was. So here's what we're going to do. How does that sound? That has converted more business than any other statement that I've ever come across in all of the scripts and everything that we've ever have memorized and reviewed and gone through. Yeah.
Do you ever, if you're showing them 5 properties, do you ever do the comps and find out the motivation before you show, so that if they do like number 2, then you're right at the offer stage then, and you don't always give them any opportunity to think over the next day or so that it takes you to get the information to move forward?
I sinned and I need to repent. No, I don't do that. What I do though is I give them a time frame. So and we'll say that right after a showing, I'm going to gather information, and then I'm going to call you back literally 10 or 15 minutes later. We'll be able to review through, or half an hour, whatever it is. But just condense the time down. Do not give them a day or 2 days to think about it. No, because what happens is, right, you ever get upset at someone like, "Ooh, I'm going to just not be nice to you right now," right? You're about to punch them in the face, and then you take a time out. What happens to the emotions? They subside. The same is true with any heightened emotion, whether good or bad. So the key is to keep them in all the actions that we do. We heighten the emotion and we act. Set expectations, act, set expectations, act. You keep them in that high emotional state so that they can move through the process very quickly. If you allow someone to cool down, you have to ramp them back up again. Right? It's like going to war, right? The guys are beating on their chests, they're ready to get themselves ready for war. After the battle's over, like, oh man, I'm going to sew themselves up and get ready for the next day. What do they do before the next battle? They get themselves heightened up again. What would it look like if we were to keep someone in that heightened state and condense down the breaks between that are taking place, and we keep them emotionally running? That's what you want to do. That's why you set the expectation, and then literally you carry through with it right afterwards and condense the time out. Don't say, hey, I'm gonna get back to you tomorrow. No, we're gonna put together an offer at Starbucks afterwards. It'll take maybe about 20 minutes to half an hour. What you could do is, hey, Mr. and Mrs. Listing Agent, we're gonna go through our showings. Typically, if your property is one of the properties that are gonna be one of the client's favorites, and it's beautiful properties, so I think it will, would you mind making yourself available typically around 1 o'clock when our showings are going to end, so I can have that conversation with you? So you're priming this listing agent as well. When we can set the expectations and follow through with it, you're extremely effective when you do it. Okay? That's pretty much it, guys. We'll go to the bottom line page and just go through the bullet points. Which is every lead has a potential to turn into business. We want to treat every lead as precious. We want to find out which leads are ready, willing, and able. Cultivate all other leads until they're ready, willing, and able. And then use your sales ability and knowledge, market knowledge, to move people from inquiry to lead to close a transaction. And always ask for the appointment. All right. Shift 6 is, I'm going to be very transparent, it's dated material. There's command, there's technology, there's all of stuff. They actually provide you a website too. All of that stuff is done for you. So my encouragement is to have a conversation with Carrie, get in on one of those classes so that you can start to get the technology working for you. Before we leave, can I have one or two ahas from today's class? AHA stands for, right? Ooh, look at you guys all Kellerized. Agents helping agents.
I really like going through the timeline of the market and the dips and the highs. I think that was really helpful. So that was, I don't know if that would be an aha, but that was my takeaway.
Thank you. This is for each other. It's not for me. I don't. Words of affirmation is not my love language. It's quality time. Anyone else?
I like what you said about everybody already has the answer in their words. You just have not asked enough questions, open-ended questions to discover what that is.
It's
Just ask that one.
It's amazing, man. Yeah. In the digging process, you ask, tell me more. When you say blank, tell me more. When you get to a point where you believe you can attach an emotion to the question, that's when you ask, how did that make you feel? Did that with Sam, with the author, book and everything, right? So which you can connect the emotion to the question, which creates a stronger bond. Everyone else good? All right, yes.
It just comes back to the emotion makes people act. Really important.
And run it. A leader teaches people how to think so they know how to get, they know what to get, they know how to get what they need to get when they need to get it. And so principles allow us to run through that filter in any scenario that allows us to continue to have success when we operate on a principle-based approach, right? So yeah, it's a very, very important principle. So then go back and ask the question, in my experience from the time that I meet the client, the time that we go into escrow, what am I doing to allow them to remain in that emotional place? Right? What are my words? What am I wearing? What does it even smell like in an open house? I don't know, right? I mean, we literally go through that whole process. So it's very strategic in approaching it, which caters to someone, allows them to stay in that state to be able to move forward. It's important. There's Domino's Pizza, if you guys care for it outside. But thank you so much. It was a pleasure being able to have some conversation with you guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Also talked about highcentral.com, right?
Yep.
And the annual residential resale data.
Yeah, annual, yeah, is that, you have oh, perfect, thank you. So Carrie has that in the back. I would just start with 85 and fast forward every 11 years and highlight it, so you know what that looks like. If you do want the daily trackers, these are just super simple. It's not like rocket science, just so you guys can, welcome to have one. Don't forget your discs too. Start studying up on the disc system so you can profile someone. Not that you're like a serial killer or anything, but you know, you do want to know how to cater to somebody.